Hi, I'm Ned Holland. I'm a filmmaker and producer from the south of England, and I've been making this documentary on seals in Cornwall. Seals, to many, are seen as cute, adorable and friendly. And actually, the relationship and part they play within today's world is far more complex than we may think. There are many conservationists who are doing incredible work to not only protect seals in Cornwall, but to safely educate people about these creatures. However, there are other people who share slightly different views on this. When I first began researching this project, I hadn't appreciated the sensitivity surrounding this topic. Fishermen won't hesitate to express their frustration with seals. Seals do eat their fish, or sometimes will just take a bite or a chunk out of the fish. The fishing gig is tough, especially when living in a cost of living crisis. They've got their own food to put on the table, so I can completely see where they're coming from and why they have these opinions. I don't want to affect any of the incredible work that's already been achieved and damage, some of those relationships between conservationists and fisheries that people have fought so hard to bridge. Seals and humans should be coexisting, so understanding why seems important.
My name is Sue Sayer, MBE, and I am the founder and director of the Seal Research Trust. I do pretty much lots of things for the charity, all the way from surveying seals to recording them, to analysing the data, photo identifying them, telling their stories, and then using that information for conservation. So the Cornish coast has become a lot busier in the last decade. Lots more of us are getting great access to our fabulous coast around Cornwall. It underpins our economy in Cornwall, and as a result of that, we're causing more disturbance of marine life. It's not intentional, it's just through a lack of awareness, and that's where our work comes in. And what we see is more seal disturbance events in the summer, when there are more people around. So that gives us really clear focus. This is when we need to take action, this is when we need to do the awareness raising. Effectively, any human disturbance wastes their energy, and they use a lot of energy to come out on land, so there must be a really good reason for it to expend all that energy, and the reason is they come out to digest their food, and they can shut more of their brains down on land than they can in the water. They'll look at you, so then that's the first visible sign that you've disturbed them. They'll move towards the sea, wasting energy. And then if they're very worried, they'll move into the sea where they feel safest. If they decide that they're going to spook into the water, they'll do two things. They'll either tombstone from height, they tend to break their ribs and their bottom jaws, so they'll swim away and they look fine. But actually they're going to die because ribs can't heal because they collapse under pressure when they're diving. The other thing they do is not just tombstone, they will also stampede. So they'll stampede over a sandy beach or a boulder beach, whatever the terrain is, to get to the safety of the sea. And it can be 100 metres at low tide that they have to go. And I know what to look for after a stampede. Zoom in with my 3000mm camera and I look down and I can see the blood trails to the sea that the seals have left. So they injure themselves as they go. Rip out claws as they go. Ripping off your fingernails not going to be much fun.
My name's Rupert Kirkwood, also known as the Lone Kayaker. I've paddled every inch of southwest England. I've clocked up over the last 20 years over 30,000 miles in my kayak, most of that around southwest England. So the equivalent of 1.25 times around the planet, mainly around southwest England. The thing which drives me on is the amazing nature. So, during my travels, I've seen seals, sunfish, turtles, whales, dolphins, otters, beavers, basking sharks, puffins, peregrines, you name it. I've had the pleasure of seeing it because I grind out the miles. I see seals very commonly, virtually every coastal trip, and actually many of the estuary trips I do now, I encounter seals. They are very engaging. I've learned over the years, just by watching them, they are staggeringly intelligent, right up there with dolphins from what I've seen. On a still day, if a dog barks 7 miles away over on that beach over there, you know, the seal will whip its head around to listen. They're also the only wild animal I've ever seen look up at a vapor trail aeroplane overhead. In the water, they are totally confident. I've had a seal follow my kayak around for several miles. Out of the water, they are the polar opposite. They feel exposed. I can see the problem. On a calm day, people go out on a paddleboard. Everyone's got a camera now, and they want to get that picture of the seal hauled out on the rocks, which doesn't do the seals any favors, because that seal might have just literally just swum 500 miles. It's absolutely shattered and needs a rest. And then along comes a horde of paddleboarders and frightens it away. But they are as protected as they could possibly be by people like Sue Sayer.
There's your seal damage. Fucking fantastic. They need a cull. I don't like to say it, but it needs a cull. It's a love-hate relationship. Some of them are cute, the rest of them are fat, greedy pigs. When we're netting in the winter for pollock on the wrecks, they're sat on the wrecks having a free meal. My time and effort to try and find the fish, and they're just sat on the bottom, annihilating the fish, and they got the cheek to, when they fill up to the brim, to come up to the surface, pop their head up, say hello, and swim off again. I'd say every fisherman's the same. The ones that go netting have always got problems with seals, no matter where they go around the UK. They're protected, they're taking over the ocean, they're eating everything. Baby lobsters, baby fish. No, it's not overfishing, no way. I know it's nature, but they are everywhere. We've got a bit down there. There's probably 50 to 60 seals there most nights. All stuffed, all fat bellies. They go in after the fish. They only go in for their liver, but they ruin the whole fish to get to it. And you do get the odd one tangled in the net, a seal, which can't be helped.
Can you explain to us what this tally is?
No. And they just absolutely annihilate the net, and the net now is only £500. You've got the big boats in Newlyn, they catch a lot of monkfish, which is high-end, top-quality fish. They're expensive, and they're quite hard to catch. And they could have 50-odd monkfish in a string, and they could keep none. They just literally rip the tail off and leave the head. They take the best bit and leave the shit bit. The ones in the harbour don't seem to be the problems for the tourists. It's the big wild ones out deep sea. They're just taking a living off us. I really don't know what the answer is. I generally don't know. Probably not, no. It's just nature, isn't it? You're not going to change nature, but they do need a cull. They are eating their way through the ocean.
Pests. You're on about netting from the other bit. It's over there.
No, not these are.
It's babies.
Don't fucking film that. Please.
My name's Rob Wing, and I'm a fish merchant within the fishing industry. I'm currently chairman of the Harbour Commission in Newlyn, which is England's largest fishing port. And I'm also, with great pleasure, I'm chairman of the National Lobster Hatchery, which is based in the fishing port of Padstow. I do accept that fishing as an industry now is greatly changed in the past decades. It's almost a prerequisite to have relationships with fishermen, fisheries organisations and the industry as a whole, because we're just one part of a cog in the catching, processing and distribution of fresh seafood. Fishermen perceive the seal as being its competitor to their catch. If I were a fisherman and hauling up a string of nets and finding that every fish had a gouge out of it with a seal, I think I'd be fairly upset. When we're expecting to have a good landing of pollock and one of the guys comes in and says, I haven't got much for you today because the wretched seals went through the lot. It disrupts our supply chain. But for the guy that's put his living on the line and the seals come through and chomp the lot, it must be quite frustrating. In times when I'm being pushed on fish price, the real cost of fish is lives. The industry itself do spend inordinate amounts of time, effort and money to discourage citations from getting caught in their net. There are other methods of harming seals than plastics, not always netting. I heard of one seal the other day had to have a frisbee removed from its neck. Humanity needs to understand how it's interacting with nature. I always think that we need to take only what we need for today on the basis that we've left slightly more than we need for tomorrow. Without a doubt, the fishing industry is looking internally to how it can manage sustainable fish stocks, because if you're a fisherman and you want to invest in a boat from 100,000 through to maybe 3 to 4 million for a large vessel, you've got to be bankable. And to be bankable, you've got to have a future. And sustainable fishing is the only future.
Another issue that affects seals is entanglement. So we've got really high rates of live entanglement in lost fishing gear. I think 310 dead bicaught seals in 2015 in Devon and Cornwall alone. They're curious creatures. As juveniles, they learn through play. They find a bit of lost gear in the water. It's the most exciting thing they've seen all day, so they play with it, over it, under it, round it, through it, and then they're caught. And they can't escape from that. Then you think, well, it's going to take a while for them to grow, for that net to become a problem, but actually it doesn't. Movement alone is enough to cut straight through their skin. It blunts a scalpel blade to cut through seal skin, and yet this monofilament net is like cheese wire, and it literally cuts right the way round, all the way through the skin. But very recently, British Divers Marine Life Rescue rescued a seal called Hattie. They thought she was the size of a 1 or 2 year old from the post-mortem, but she was at least 4.5 years old. So we learned from her case study that, as we had suspected, entanglement stunts the growth of animals, but she also had a new condition called hepatic amyloidosis, which means that the entanglement inflammation had seriously impacted her liver, which was massive, and meant that she had a very low survival prospect. We do understand that for fishers it's extremely frustrating having nets that they're hauling up and finding damaged fish in the nets, or actually watching a seal pinching a fish off a hook on their line. However, according to the Marine Management Organisation, that fish doesn't actually belong to the fisher until it's landed on the vessel. It belongs to all of us. The oceans have their own rights. We have a right over what is in the sea. Fishers have been having a massive impact on seals ever since industrial fishing started. Climate change is also playing a role in this because it's changing the seasonality of seals. Watching a molted pup that's a few months old completely caught up in a line of mackerel hooks, can't put its rear flippers out because it's attached to its jaw or its belly, is really distressing. One of the reasons why seals follow boats is because they get fed by boats and they don't necessarily discriminate between a tripper boat and a fishing boat. So we definitely need to stop any feeding of wild seals. That would really help. modern science tells us that fishers need seals. So fishers and seals depend on the same resource, so you think that they're likely to be in competition with each other, but they're not. I would really like every fisher to take one of their young loved ones out with them on a boat on a fishing trip and then ask them for their honest opinion about what they see as the future going forward, about what needs to change.
My name's Jenny. I work for Pasco Sea Life Safaris. I work as a wildlife guide. A lot of people come out hoping to just spot the wildlife, but what we want to do is help them learn a little bit more about the wildlife and also just telling them about different conservation issues that might be affecting the wildlife that they're seeing. We do see seals on the vast majority of our trips, always lots of bird life around. This area is quite popular for the grey seals. They like to follow the coastline, hang out in little sheltered coves. We can never guarantee seeing them every time we're out, but we do see them on the majority of our trips. Seals are probably the most common wildlife that we see. We keep a nice distance away from the seals, stop the boats and allow the seals to understand that we're not there to be any kind of a threat to them, and then it's up to the seals if they want to come closer. Some of the young juveniles can be a lot more interested in us and may swim up to the boat to investigate. Some seals are just really relaxed with the boat around. A lot of the seals we see are quite regular visitors to the area, so they know that we're nothing to worry about, whereas other seals might just stop off here as they pass by. We are finding that seals are starting to sort of slightly skew their pupping season. They can actually adapt when they give birth, so they have something called delayed implantation. When they mate, they will fertilise the egg, but they don't implant the egg right away. They'll hold this off for maybe a couple of months and then they'll start a 9-month pregnancy. So by using hormones to control when they start their pregnancy, they can adapt to when they have their pups. If there's certain times of year that they've experienced a lot of bad storms, not enough food supply, then they can alter when they have their pups to adapt to it. So it's when they're giving birth to their pup, it's a better time of year for them. They don't have any natural predators here, but they still do have challenges that kind of keeps the population in balance. I think this coastline is a lot more suited to a grey seal sort of lifestyle, if you will. So they do tend to spend more time out on the rocky coasts, whereas common seals tend to prefer more kind of like little estuarine bays and things like that. A lot of people who live inland, they come out to the coast on their holidays and they might not have any idea that maybe even we have seals here, never mind how to behave appropriately around them. People will see seals on a beach and try and clamber down the cliff to get to them, to maybe try and take a selfie or see them much closer, and that can scare them into the water. We've seen a seal once swimming around the Gulland Island with netting around its neck. It's not something that the fishermen I know they want to do. It's certainly not intentional, but obviously it's not ideal. So when we're out on the boat, if we see any ghost gear that's floating around in the water, then we'll just pick it up and put it in the bin once we get back on shore, just to sort of try and prevent that kind of thing happening to anything else.
We all love our seals in Cornwall, but equally, the fishing industry is a massive part of Cornwall's culture. The work that is being done to protect seals and other marine wildlife is fantastic. Conservationists are doing amazing work to try and reduce the number of entanglement cases there are, not just in Cornwall, but across the country. But you're asking yourself, is there overfishing in general, not just in Cornwall? With the rising concerns of lack of fish in our ocean, it's understandable that seals might go for the easy option, and this is all evident through, the amount of bycatch we see. Seals don't just eat pollock or mackerel, they eat a vast array of other fish. But it seems all too easy to forget the fishermen. While it might not seem significant to feed a friendly seal in the harbour, I think the drastic consequences this could have on a commercial fisherman's livelihood and catch is forgotten. How can we look after them whilst ensuring our seas and wildlife are still protected and not damaged, making sure that these fishermen are able to put food on the table themselves. I personally believe that if these conversations continue, seals and fisheries should be able to coexist in harmony.